And away from the Djokovic saga, in Afghanistan, the Taliban administration has approved their first budget for the country. The budget comes the first time since the hardline Islamist group returned to power in August last year. Before the Taliban took power, about 75% of public spending was funded by foreign aid grants. Noticeably, international assistance represented 40% of Afghanistan's GDP. Foreign aid also made up 80% of the budget when the former US-backed government was in control. Government support has now been mostly suspended, but humanitarian aid has largely continued to flow. Yet the Taliban budget has no mention of the foreign assistance. Taliban Finance Ministry spokesperson Ahmad Wali Hakmal touted the budget independent of foreign aid a big achievement. The approved budget of $508 million will cover the first quarter of 2022. The Islamists are set to announce their first annual budget in March. The fiscal year has been shifted to March, Afghanistan's solar calendar. Finance Ministry spokesperson also added that the Taliban exchequer is funded by their own resources. This includes tax, trade and mining revenue. Less than 10% of the amount will be spent on development projects which will include transport infrastructure. The budget is almost entirely dedicated to funding government institutions. Well, for more on this story, we are joined by former Afghan government advisor Torek Farhadi from Geneva. Mr. Torek, thank you for your time and for talking to WION. My first question to you, in your opinion, should foreign aid have included in the Taliban budget given the humanitarian situation of the country and the fact that Afghanistan is still cash-strapped?
Greetings to you. It really shows that the Taliban are in oblivion that Afghanistan needs humanitarian aid if they make a budget that doesn't take into account the needs of Afghanistan. It's a very small budget, an operation budget of their own administration. But foreign aid is not the solution for Afghanistan. Afghanistan still needs a political solution. In other words, the world and the United Nations should not accept the facts as they are, and they should continue to facilitate a political situation in Afghanistan. There was a round of negotiations to create a joint government of collaboration between different Afghan forces. But after the Taliban came to power, it seems that the world has completely accepted the Taliban and are focused on humanitarian aid. We call on the UN Secretary General to reignite his efforts to bring political peace to Afghanistan. That's what will make any other help sustainable in Afghanistan, because otherwise, for how many years we are just going to do humanitarian aid in a territory where the world doesn't recognize the government?
For the Taliban to release a budget at this moment when international donors suspended financial aid and even Western powers froze assets into the country, what message is the Taliban trying to send to the world?
It's just that we are here at the ministries, but you feed our people. That's all the message that's being sent, and it's not a good message. I think the Taliban have to open the government for non-Taliban at the highest levels of decision-making. That will help their government's legitimacy. That will help Afghanistan gain support at the United Nations to regain its seat and then regain its help and development programs at the World Bank and the IMF. So the crisis is a political crisis. Yes, the immediate crisis is a humanitarian crisis, but the political crisis needs to be resolved.
Finally, and you have mentioned this, the Taliban government has been trying to fight for an international recognition for some time now. In your own opinion, what should happen in Afghanistan right now to bring in a sort of calm and reprieve?
First, the Taliban have to open ministerial posts for people who are not Taliban. Not necessarily the actors of the past, but they should demonstrate to the people of Afghanistan that Taliban trust technocrats and bureaucrats that are not Taliban, so-called establishment, that can run the government. Because we read an article in the New York Times that now they have called on Pakistan to support in capacity building. There is capacity inside Afghanistan built over the past 20 years. And then the Taliban have to create local councils where they go not as preachers but as listeners. This is when they will notice that the real problem of Afghanistan now is poverty, and poverty makes people move across the borders and create a regional crisis, and inside a crisis that could end up in a security crisis for the country and the region.
Live from Geneva, former Afghan government advisor Torek Farhadi, thank you very much for your time and for talking to us today.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.